It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, today we're going to jump in that gigantic, sharp, interactive board. I want to share my thoughts on Toshiba FY 2024. We all know that Toshiba's got two business units. They got that Workplace Solutions business unit, MFPs and software applications, helping businesses all over the world navigate information. They also have that Retail Solutions business group, the smart shopping cart, the cashierless register, software applications, bringing better experience in a digital landscape, not only to retailers, but those shoppers too. Let's jump on the board and look at some numbers. Top line revenue for the year was $3.9 billion. Had an operating profit of $138.3 million, or 3.5%. The leaders at Toshiba and the leaders all throughout the industry know operating profit ratio's got to go up. I'd like to see them all with double digit. They can do it. But the leaders throughout the industry, they're going to have to think about the fields they're playing the game on. Maybe they need to find a new field. They're going to have to look at their frenemies and try to figure out maybe we need to be better friends. They're going to have to seek possibilities because possibilities become probabilities, and probabilities become reality quicker than ever. When I was going through Toshiba's FY 2024, there was some interesting things that happened over FY 2024. Some good stuff. Let's look at some more numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth quarter of FY 2024 was the best quarter in top line revenue and operating profit over the last 8 quarters, over the last 2 years. In the fourth quarter, the top line revenue was $1,032 million. Operating profit was $57.9 million, or 5.6%. Congratulations, Toshiba. Let's look at this Retail Business Solutions Group over the last 8 quarters, 2 years. Congratulations. They had the best profit in the fourth quarter of FY 2024 than they've had over the last 8 quarters. And by the way, FY 2024 fourth quarter, the Retail Solutions Business Group had a profitability in the overseas marketplace, which has been a struggle for them. Congratulations, Retail Solutions Business Group. Fourth quarter, you had $603.7 million in sales, had an operating profit of $32.1 million, and again, it was the first time you had an operating profit in the overseas marketplace in a few quarters. Let's just put it that way. Let's look at the workplace. Man, the workplace, folks, you had a great sales in the fourth quarter. The best sales over the last 8 quarters. Fourth quarter of 2024. But you didn't have the best operating profit. You can see it circled there. The best operating profit you had over the last 8 quarters was 8.1%. I got to ask my friends in the Workplace Solutions Business Group, can we make that the norm? Could every quarter be 8%? And then when you hit something out of the park, it'll jump up there past that double digit. And pretty soon, double digit will be the norm. But congratulations. Top line revenue for the quarter was $434.1 million in revenue. Operating profit was $25.2 million, to 5.9%. But I believe that the Workplace Solutions Business Group can, in fact, grow that profitability to double digits. Let's look at total year, side by side, Retail Solutions Workplace. The revenue for the workplace for the whole year was $1.7 billion, had an operating profit of $83.2 million, or 4.9%. The Retail Solutions Business Group, $2.3 billion, operating profit of $55.2 million, 2.4%. But when the year ended, they were below the line a little bit in the overseas operating profit. We saw where they went above the line in that fourth quarter. We need to keep that momentum going. So at the end of FY 2025, we can not only be in the green, but we're in the green both domestically and overseas. That's my challenge. But when I look at the Retail Solutions Business Group, $1.2 billion of the $2.3 billion in total revenue for that group comes from the domestic marketplace. 53% of the revenue. If you look at the Americas, it's only 31%. I believe that we could do better, because I have to keep asking the question, why is the overseas not profitable in the retail business? Again, you did it in the fourth quarter, but we got to do it every quarter. When I looked at the Workplace Business Unit over the last 5 years, guess what? Well, I got to tell you, the last 5 years, you broke the record on sales. And you shied a little bit from breaking the record in operating profit over the last 5 years. But you're growing your sales. You just got to get that operating profit up just a little bit. You had a good year in 2023. It was 5.6% in workplace. You dropped down to 4.9%. We know that 2024 had some issues, had some challenges, but every year is going to have issues and challenges. That's why it has to take discipline, focus, and maybe you got to change the field you're playing on. If you look at the retail business, domestic, overseas, the retail solutions that's all together, you know, they're growing their revenue since 2021. Operating profit, you know, their best year was 2021. You know, the worst year was 2023. 2024, they ended up with that 2.4%, but it has to grow. I think they can get there. They just got to think about maybe they need to change the field they're playing on. Ladies and gentlemen, I saw this slide inside the presentation on the Toshiba Investors tab, and they talk about the number of employees. They talk about the point of sale systems, number one share of this, worldwide share, Japan share. You know, they talk about the number of subsidiaries and companies, 62. Employees, 15,509. Service techs, 5,000. And when I look at the touch point section, they talk about 8 of the top 10 retailers are our customers. 6 of the top 10 U.S. retailers are our customers. 4 of the European top 10 retailers are our customers. But when they get to the MFPs, this is what they say. They say MFP global installed units, 1.4 million. You know, I've been a proponent of bringing this stuff together and letting the workplace solutions people get involved with selling this retail products. I want to share some thoughts with you because we all know how many units we have out in the field and what our MIF is. We talk about it all the time. You know why we talk about it? Because we can figure out how many we're going to sell of our own base. And we sell based on upgrading and changing out that base. If we say we got 1.4 million units out at MFPs, well, if they lasted 42 months, we're replacing 33,333 every month. If they lasted 60 months, we're replacing 23,333 every month. I think 42 months is a pretty good average, right? We talk about market share. What does that really mean? Could you imagine if in this publication it said we had 850,000 cashierless registers out there? We had 1 million or whatever the number is, smart shopping carts. We had 1 million or whatever the number of it is, applications, software applications. Then wouldn't the mind start thinking, we got to upgrade that stuff? Wouldn't the mind start thinking of how we're going to sell it to begin with? Will we focus on the units? Will we focus on what we have in the marketplace? It's not about the market share. It's about what we understand as a company that we have in equipment and in services. And how do we not only maintain that, but how do we upgrade that? And then how do we go look for more of that? It's just my thought. But I really believe if these two units were together, if these two units were led by salespeople that understand how to deliver equipment into a marketplace, monetize not only the equipment, but the annuity stream along with it, I think we could change the game in retail, and I also believe that we can make it more profitable in the overseas marketplace. I saw this slide in the presentation. I thought to myself, oh my God, this is what happens when I think engineers take over selling. Look, it's nice. Here's all the stuff we do, but I got to tell you, Toshiba, and you're my friends, nobody's reading that slide. It's too damn confusing. Toshiba, it's time to implement the Ray plan. I call it the Ray plan. Retail adds yardage. And I believe that bringing the retail business in with the workplace solutions business will add yardage. Not only to the revenue, but to the profitability. Not only in the domestic, but the overseas market. We will change the game because we'll change the field we're playing the game on. I really believe this. Delivering the best customer experience for retail shoppers and office workers through the intersection between the digital and physical world, that's what Toshiba needs to be known for. And I believe that they can be known for that. And I also believe that they can get to a double-digit operating profit ratio if they just change the field they're playing on, think about their frenemies and make them better friends. Because, ladies and gentlemen, all you need is an army of salespeople backed by an army of service and support. Toshiba, sometimes seeking engineering perfection gets in the way of seeking customers. I'll say that to everybody. You know, we sometimes we're trying to figure out how to make this thing perfect instead of figuring out how to make this thing grow. And everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.